trouble in the cabinet room.
Got to ask the question that everybody wanted to hear the answer to. And the president certainly knew he was going to get asked that. He ignored a question about health care and looked straight at me and wanted to weigh in on this latest and still ongoing controversy. The president, arms crossed, very furrowed brow, seemed very defensive, pushing back on what Congresswoman Frederica Wilson says he said to the widow of Army Sergeant LaDavid Johnson. The president said he didn't say what she says he said, and he wanted her to remake her statement, which she, of course, has not done. He suggested on Twitter he had proof to back him up, but the White House later said there was no recording of this call, but that there were several people in the room for it, including General John Kelly, himself a Gold Star father. But the Congresswoman says there were a bunch of people in the car, too, who also heard that side of the conversation.
I hate this story for a lot of different reasons, and you can certainly see how it's the context in which it was said. And
Absolutely.
He certainly could have said it, and a grieving wife and mother and family could have heard it a different way. So, I mean, there's any number of ways you can go on this story.
Absolutely. And we were talking about that yesterday of, yes, okay, so you have this congresswoman who comes out. She's a Democrat. She's clearly not a fan of the president and says he said this. The mother of the fallen soldier backs that up. We haven't heard from his widow yet, though. And there's a way then when that question comes up in the cabinet room to answer it and say, look, these are private conversations. These are the toughest phone calls I have to make as president. I've said that before, and this shows how hard they are.
Right.
Anything I said to the widow, I hope was just in condolence to honor her loved one, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I mean, kind of there's a playbook to it, a paint by numbers. But, the president kind of takes it to another chapter by the response he gave yesterday. And then a couple hours later, the White House goes another level by pushing back on the politicizing of the deaths of American service members and how frustrated the White House is and how disgusted General Kelly is that this has all become so political. Well, that, of course, begs the question, which I asked yesterday of Sarah Sanders, did the president politicize General Kelly's son's death when he, out of the blue, brought him up in an answer to a question during a radio interview on Tuesday? The president was asked about what past presidents did and what the president claims he does compared to them, et cetera. And President Trump said, why don't you ask General Kelly if President Obama called him after his son was killed? General Kelly's son was killed in Afghanistan in 2010. It's a subject he does not like to talk about. He will not address it in interviews. It's very personal, of course, very private. So that seems to me, if you're saying that this is being politicized, what about that? Sarah Sanders said that the president was asked a question and he was responding with a statement, but it's worth noting he wasn't asked about General Kelly's son.
Yeah, and then to pile on all of this, the Washington Post found a father who Donald Trump promised $25,000 to.
Yeah, this came out after the briefings and after we had already seen the president for the day. But they reached out to all of the families of the fallen who died under this year while President Trump's been in office. And one of them said that during a conversation, the president offered a $25,000 personal check to this father of a soldier who was killed in June in Afghanistan. He got a letter of condolence, but there was no check in it. And he said he was kind of surprised, but also thought, well, maybe it was just a statement. Well, this, of course, spins into another controversy. The White House says that the check is in the mail. The family says they don't want this to become another political controversy. They have nothing but gratitude. But, questions about why he said that, why it took so long to send the gift. Maybe it was a staffer dropping the ball. It's not clear.
Yeah,
but just kind of the timing of it all. It's just been out 4 days of this being, and I think what you said, you just hate this story in general.
All right, Karen Travers, we'll let you go to make more controversy today so you can tell us all about it tomorrow.
Thank you.
Karen Travers, ABC News White House correspondent, 6:50.